I expected you to show up in a blue suit with a red tie now that you're the CEO, but you're still in a t-shirt like me.
Tether has worked with 30 different law enforcement agencies around the world in 19 different countries, including US, including Ukraine, including Israel.
Basically more heavily invested in treasuries than many of the largest countries in the world.
I think it's extremely scary. Although we have a strong investigation team, we don't have 200,000 people.
I've long made the argument that outside of Bitcoin, the killer app for crypto is stablecoins. People in countries with hyperinflating currencies don't generally rush into Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies. They have a thirst for dollars and they can't get them on the black market. They can't get their hands on cash, but what they can get their hands on is digital dollars. And the most popular one, of course, is USDT, also known as Tether. I once again had an amazing conversation with Paolo Ardoino, now the CEO of Tether, and we discussed why the market cap of Tether has increased so much, why in countries like Brazil it's 80% of all crypto transactions, and of course, why there's still endless fear, uncertainty, and doubt surrounding the company. You don't want to miss this one.
That's dope.
Well, Paolo, first of all, congratulations. I heard you got a new job.
Yes, thank you very much, Scott.
So I guess it's probably more of the same for you, right?
Yeah, it's same old business as usual.
So what's the difference between being CTO and CEO?
It's a great question. I think that now people expect less techy stuff and more business things. But I'm being always excited about strategy and business. I've been carried that over at Tether for the last 2 years anyway, right? So, and I'm a spokesperson, so it just makes sense.
I expected you to show up in a blue suit with a red tie now that you're the CEO, but you're still in a t-shirt like me.
Yeah, I mean, cool CEOs have t-shirts, wear t-shirts.
That's right. Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg made it okay for everybody to just wear the same t-shirt that you and I are wearing right now every single day. But more seriously, obviously, congratulations on that. I know it's probably not a big deal to you, but it seems like a very big move. Listen, can you just give us the update right now on where things are with Tether? Obviously, I think last time we spoke, you had just reported that quarter and had done obviously astoundingly well. We discussed the fact that that was largely because a lot of your money was in United States treasuries, earning high yields. Those yields have seemingly only gone up. And I saw that you guys had even another attestation more recently that even now a higher percentage of your holdings are in cash and cash equivalents.
Yeah, I mean, the last attestation that was just published a few days ago is another, I think, proof of our willingness to provide farther and farther public information. So first of all, another great quarter. So the net operating profits are still around $1 billion. There was a public disclosure of an investment that we made into mining companies and mining opportunities and a few other areas. As we stated in our attestation, our report, that is outside of the consolidated report. So it means that we didn't use Tether USDT reserves to perform those purchases and investments. So we took part of the profits of the last quarter in order to make these investments. So they are fully kept outside of the reserves, not kept as reserve or counted as reserves. So no one can say as well, but mining is tricky, it's difficult. So what if you lose all your equipment goes on fire? Are you going to lose your money? No. That is outside the consolidated reserves. That is not at all impacting our reserves. So the excess reserve that we have on top of the 100 reserves that are back in USDT are still accounting for $3.2 billion. So that is always our goal, to make sure that the USDT as a token remains overly backed, overly collateralized, right? We are around 104%, 104% over collateralized. So still we want to show our commitment to the strength, to maintain the strength of USDT. We have seen that USDT in the last 2 months have traded almost consistently, also in these last 3-4 weeks, because it traded consistently above the dollar and above the market price of our main competitor. So that also is almost a sentiment of the market, and also, you know, when there is something happening in the market, people turn more and more to USDT. The other important part of our attestation is that Tether still holds around $72.6 billion in US Treasury bills between direct exposure and indirect exposure. Just to clarify, I think it's important. We got some questions. The direct exposure is the direct ownership of T-bills. Indirect comes from money market funds and overnight reverse repos fully collateralized in US T-bills. So the total is $72.6 billion. So it still puts us above Mexico, Australia, and UAE in ownership of US T-bills.
That's just astounding to me. I mean, we've talked about that obviously in the past, but the fact that you're basically more heavily invested in treasuries than many of the largest countries in the world should be an indication that you should be supported by the United States, right?
I would say so.
Yeah, I would say so too, but we've seen some pretty wild accusations coming once again from the government. I have to say I was really surprised. Obviously, we went through the entire fake news situation of Hamas being funded by terrorists and Elizabeth Warren's letter to Congress with 100 other congressmen and senators that we saw. But even after that was proven fake, Cynthia Lummis, who we all view as very, I think, open-minded on Bitcoin, very crypto forward, she's proposed stablecoin legislation, had this curious letter that said that the DOJ should finish investigating Binance and Tether and effectively pursue charges. And it was based on fake news that it had been used to help fund terrorism. Can you unpack that a bit for me? Because I found it very, very strange and surprising.
Yeah, I mean, the term that I would use is sad, because I think that Tether more and more had proven to be a good ally to the United States. I was mentioning just a few minutes ago how much of interest we have in US T-bills. So we consider that the most solid asset, on the real world asset that someone could hold in its portfolio. And also, we strongly believe that Tether is helping the hyper-dollarization of the world, so should be considered. Nevertheless, yes, you're right. A letter based on misinformation started from an article published by the Wall Street Journal that the Wall Street Journal took weeks to retract because it was full of misinformation. That article was accounting for a level of usage of cryptocurrencies to help illicit activities that was off by 200 times, right? It's not like a small difference, right? So they did a really poor job and in tracking those numbers. And of course, someone could argue that, maybe it was a mistake. My opinion was not really a mistake, right? There was a message that the Wall Street Journal tries to send on behalf of their friends of the old establishment or the banking establishment. That's something that that triggers at least my mind. So also the time they took, I mean, if I was a journalist, right? So if I was a journalist, someone writes me, I know that Nick Carter pinged them many times saying, hey, your data doesn't even make sense, right? Your data is fully researched, and there are a ton of K-analysis made a huge investigation and it proved that that information was overly wrong. And so why you are not retracting the article? It took a week to write like a couple of lines saying, yeah, maybe the data was a little bit
and nobody sees the retraction ever.
Yeah,
ever.
Exactly. So I think was potentially, this article was treated with an ulterior motive, in my opinion, and that's fine. I think is in the end, it's they are. I think it's a risk of desperation of the. We'll see how it will play out. But unfortunately, the sad part is that it was used by people in the U.S. Congress to pinpoint certain issues that again are based on information that is incorrect. So we have been public about the fact that Tether has worked with 30 different law enforcement agencies around the world in 19 different countries, including US, including Ukraine, including Israel. So we froze on behalf of the law enforcement, different law enforcement agencies around the world, different accounts that might have been linked with illicit activity. Over time, also considering the hacks, the hacks, the DeFi hacks, the exchange hacks who have been and are the vast majority of these funds. And in total, we froze $800 million worth of Tether working closely with law enforcement. And when I see right in the letter that it was alleged that Tether is not working proactively with law enforcement, that is completely wrong. We have been working proactively with the law enforcement, with the Department of Justice. Probably we are going to share some information about that. We always been extremely dedicated to monitor also the secondary markets through instruments like chain analysis. But the most important misconception is that, first of all, Tether has a sophisticated compliance and investigation team in the company, right? Our CCO, Chief Compliance Officer, comes from an important job in his previous life and has been awarded a few times and is part of the outcomes. So as as one of the ways that you can understand what is our commitment in combating crime is our investigation department has direct lines with many law enforcement agencies around. Now, the other important part that I need to mention is that our competitors and most of exchanges only act when they get a judge order. So, and for law enforcement, obtaining a judge order takes weeks or months. And while Tether, understanding the importance of ensuring that an instrument like USDT is not used by bad actor, we rely on law enforcement letters that, of course, we verify and we make sure that they contain the right elements. Nevertheless, that is the proof that compared to our competition, compared to banks also, we have a better and more efficient standard of collaboration with law enforcement, again, including the Department of Justice. So thinking that till today, we never worked or we needed a push, or a slap from the Department of Justice to collaborate with them, that is not correct. We have been always forthcoming and trying to do our best to be seen as a good ally.
Cynthia Lummis, the senator, not only did she send that letter, but then she actually admitted in a Twitter thread afterwards that it was based on fake news, which she used to attack her political opponents, but then still didn't really apologize. I found it very strange.
Look, I mean, everyone makes mistakes. We don't need an apology, I think. It's important that we all keep an open discussion also with members of Congress, so that we can at least explain what we are doing, how we are doing it. We wish we had the opportunity to explain our procedures these are not marketing procedures, right? So helping bad actors is something that no one should do. And a company in the position of Tether that is a healthy company, is making good profit and so on, has everything to lose in not collaborating with law enforcement. And so that's what we did. We have also been criticized to be even too zealous to be collaborating with law enforcement. So seeing that we get this type of letters from a group that anyway has sustained the good usage of cryptocurrencies around the world is quite sad in my opinion.
You can't really win because you get attacked by both sides. We know that that's how the world works, but you get the legislators complaining on one side, and then on the other side, you'll be told by the crypto community that you're not decentralized enough and that you should not be working with law enforcement at all. I think that everybody understands that. Can you actually walk me through a bit how these types of transactions or bad actors are actually identified? You sort of hinted at the fact that a lot of the time it comes from the government sending a request. Is there ever a time when you guys identify something that you think clearly might be from a bad actor and you report it in the other direction, or you freeze it of your own volition?
Sure. Let me explain a little bit the details there, right? So first of all, we have as Tether, the primary market. The primary market is our platform. So when issuers, companies, or accredited people that went through a thorough KYC AML process could in fact work directly with us, with Tether. The process is extremely thorough. It requires a lot of documentation and in-depth analysis of the counterparty. In this moment, right, so Tether has only a limited number of active customers because the majority of Tether users, not customers, users, are using secondary markets blockchains, but the most of people are using exchanges to acquire USDT or sell USDT. Then there is a limited group of people, just because they have thorough compliance departments and they are in position then to collaborate with us. They are issuing everything directly USDT through that. Now, it's important to note that no one of our customers on the primary market ever been found in any sort of position to have dealt with pumps or CEFI. Now, on the secondary market, that is the other part. Secondary markets mean blockchains and exchanges. Blockchains are, transport layers for USDT, and exchanges are usually central exchanges that they have their own customer base. So what we do is that we leverage Chainalysis as a software, as a platform, to identify and understand how USDT is being used on the secondary market. So I would say that most of the time, law enforcement, and of course, we have, as I said, we work with 30 different law enforcement agencies around the world. So law enforcement have the capacity to monitor more frequently and deeply the markets than Tether team. Although we have a strong investigation team, we don't have 200,000 people, right? So right. Imagine all law enforcement agencies around the world, they have, of course, more capacity than C. Of course, that is obvious. But nevertheless, it happened quite a few times that Tether identified suspicious activities before law enforcement, and hence we communicated directly to law enforcement, providing the context and providing our thoughts. So this process is called filing a suspicious activity report. Tether is registered with FinCEN, so has an obligation not only to respond when a law enforcement agency contacts them, but also to file proactively suspicious activity reports. So we do both sides, right? We are proactive in the way we can using the tools at our disposal. And also we are helpful voluntarily, because this is the key term, right? So also in the letter, still in the letter written, it seemed like we needed to be forced into action. There is nothing more wrong than that. We always collaborated with law enforcement voluntarily.
Yeah, that's a great explanation. Thank you for sharing it. It's interesting. It's almost like trying to punish Apple for the way that somebody uses an iPhone, right? I mean, you create the technology, but you can't help if a terrorist or a drug dealer uses an iPhone to do something illicit, right? And so, yeah, I don't understand how Tether should be held accountable for what two people do through a third party that has effectively nothing to do with you, but you're still expected to police that.
Yeah, indeed, we have to, I think, again, we have to also keep educating from our side, showcasing the tools that we have at our disposal and the fact that we are the good actors and we are much more efficient than the banking industry. The banking industry takes ages to do anything and to freeze funds. They have a limited view of what is happening. They don't have 24/7 type of the 24/7 ability of reacting. Our reaction time average is 15 minutes, right? So these are things that I'm sorry for the Wall Street Journal, but they will never be able to compete because that is the old guard's finance.
Right. Well, let's talk about those transactions, because there's been some pretty astounding reports of late. One was obviously about USDT adoption and usage in Brazil, saying that it made up 80% of all crypto transactions and was more than all other crypto transactions combined. So Bitcoin, Ethereum, other stable coins, all those transactions didn't even add up to how many were being done with USDT. So what does that say to you about the adoption of your asset in places like Brazil, where there's a thirst, obviously, for access to US dollars?
So that is actually the things that we should talk about. And of course, it was important to clarify, this misunderstanding, that went on for the last 2 weeks. But this is the potential of USDT. This is the potential of a currency that is actually being used by hundreds of millions of people, good people, right? Tether, we account for, in this moment, our estimation is around 300 million people around the world are using Tether to protect themselves from inflation, to have a fair access and easy access to banking services that they wouldn't have otherwise. And most of them, even if they would have some banking access, they are not there to trade Shiba Inu, right? They are not there to trade Doge. You can see that, like you said, in Brazil, 80% of all crypto transactions are USDT transactions. These people need help, need access to the dollar, the strongest fiat currency in the world. And so that's what Tether stands for. That is what Tether stands for, safety for them. Is a lifeline, lifeboat that they can use every day to protect themselves, their family, their family savings from the devaluation of their national currency. That is what we should talk about. It's not just Brazil. Argentina has the same numbers. Also in Argentina, around 80% of total crypto transactions is USDT. Turkey is the same, right? We go in all the other countries in Central Asia, is the same. And so these are stories that we need to hear more. We need to pinpoint more because, if there is a bad actor, we prove that we can catch it. But there are 300 million good actors that are using this technology, and we should start to understand how it works rather than demonize it.
I mean, Bitcoiners have long described that exact process and that exact problem as the reason that people in all of these countries should buy Bitcoin. But we see from the evidence that what people really want are dollars, right? And if that's a tokenized dollar, so be it, or that's even better for them, arguably. But why do you think that we're not seeing the same level of Bitcoin adoption in places with hyperinflation and where they need protection from their currency?
Look, I think the issue with Bitcoin is that, first of all, I'm a Bitcoiner, but the reality of things is that people have urgent needs, right? Bitcoin is harder to understand. People don't know how to hedge themselves with futures, right? So someone is selling groceries, someone is driving a taxi. There are for sure some good taxi drivers that understand, that have more interest in technology and trading, for sure. But the vast majority of people in this world, they don't have time to understand trading and fundamentals of each cryptocurrency and so on and so forth. So they understand the dollar. They understand the dollar, they understand the gold, right? So those are the two things that they have been aware of for most of their lives. And so that for them means dollar means protection, means being able to protect their savings. And so Bitcoin is not yet understood by everyone. So I'm a Bitcoiner, but I'm trying to not be an obnoxious Bitcoiner that pretends that everyone should have, a science degree and a math degree and an engineering degree all together. And if they don't understand it, that is their fault. No, it's our job to make it more understandable. It will take time. It will take education, infrastructure, and so on. In the meantime, I think USDT is a great choice and also will bring more and more people towards digital wallets. And then from those wallets, they can also purchase it.
I think we've talked about this before, but I just want to circle back to it. I'm always surprised every time I see where the volume of USDT is happening, because it's seemingly the mass bulk of it is on Tron, right? A chain that I think not many people talk about. It's been a meme in the past, obviously. People joke about it, but at the end of the day, it seems like people want to transact in digital dollars fast and cheap, and they don't really care about anything else.
Again, 99% of the people that are using USDT, all those 300 million users that on secondary markets that USDT is accounting for, it's part are on centralized exchanges, of course. I would say the majority are on centralized exchanges. The others that are not on centralized exchanges, they are using a solution that works, that is simple to use, is fast and cheap. Tron had 4 years before we launched USDT on Tron in 2018. Tron had 4 years of first mover advantage before the first serious layer 2 on Ethereum came out. And so, it's not a problem of Tron. It's a problem that people or the developers on the Ethereum side took so much time to develop an layer 2, and now they cannot complain that Tron has a huge market share.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And there's also other technological complications to doing it on a layer 2 versus a layer 1, right? I mean, it's just not that easy with UX UI versus just simply opening a Tron wallet, hitting send and receiving your money.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
Do you then think that other layer 1s like Solana could start to take that dominance? Obviously, Solana right now has been moving massively in price, which drives all the narrative surrounding it as the new chosen or anointed blockchain. But we do know that, kind of like Tron, it's become much faster and cheaper than certainly Ethereum.
Yeah, I mean, everyone has, there are different arguments for the different chains. Again, the first mover advantage is quite important, right? So it's hard to beat. So it's hard to take it out away from Tron. The other, and now I'm sounding like a Tron maxi, but I'm super agnostic when it comes, because for USDT, blockchains are transport layers. If you were asking me, I would prefer Tron to be on Liquid for Blockstream and on RGB, that is a protocol that is Lightning assets basically. That would be my preference. But in the end, it's a free world. People will use USDT on all the transport layers that we made available to them, and they will pick their best. Also, Tron has, I think, a simple advantage. For any integrators, it's super easy to run a Tron node. It's a Java binary, you compile it, you build it, you run it. It doesn't consume many resources. And people will say, yes, it doesn't compute many resources because it's centralized. Well, I mean, ton of other blockchains are centralized anyway to a certain degree. So, I mean, but again, and go back to the point that most of the integrators don't have time to waste. They want something that works. And also, USDT is anyway centralized. So the fact that the transport layer is less or more centralized doesn't matter.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense, because once you understand that Tether is centralized and that's not something that you apologize for, it's by design. Why would you really care which way you send it? You talked about the fact that you would rather see this on Liquid. RGB, obviously, we have not seen the proliferation of popular stablecoins on Bitcoin. We have seen a lot more, I think, in the last 6 months, interest in building things that exist in other places on Bitcoin. But why do you think we have not seen sort of the popularity of stablecoins? Because it does seem like a very obvious place for it.
Yeah, the difference, I mean, I'm kind of for sure today I'm not attracting too much popularity, but I think the difference is that Bitcoin and Bitcoin sidechains don't have a spending budget or a marketing budget. So if you launch a new blockchain, new layer one that has a token, you are going eventually to sell part of those tokens to create a buffer in order to have a marketing budget that could use to list your token and have your blockchain supported by many exchanges. Because that process, adding your token on many exchanges could cost $2 million to tens of millions of dollars, depending on what you want to do. So Bitcoin doesn't have a budget, right? So it's Bitcoin is something that everyone has to. There is proof of work. That's it, right? So companies that are only in the Bitcoin space, they can only have a budget if there is capital for it, but and that's it. There is no money creation. And so that, of course, makes things more difficult, but also it's true that this is a marathon, and it only matters who wins at the end.
So you think that in the end we could see, obviously, stablecoins on Bitcoin winning? I tend to agree with you, and actually I agree with your explanation. It just seems too obvious not to happen.
Now that Tether has a good budget, then we are going to help taking care of it.
Well, you guys buy a lot of Bitcoin too, right?
Well, we believe we believe in it, right? We believe that is a great hedge that is us and Tether, right? So we are kind of aligned in the vision that in the end, with all the craziness that is happening in the world, it's hard to argue that there is something better than Bitcoin.
And the price is confirming that at the moment. It doesn't always, of course, but it has been really interesting, I think, to see Bitcoin rise double since last year, obviously at the bottom after FTX. Seemingly just went from 20, 25, 31. Here we are almost at 35 now, but in an environment, as you described, where the world seems to be on the decline, right? More wars, certainly a lot of global uncertainty around economics and markets. Are you surprised at all to finally see Bitcoin uncorrelated? I've always argued that it's uncorrelated anyways, but some will say that it just decoupled. Are you surprised, though, that it's been able to sort of do this well in this part of the cycle and in context of what's happening around the world?
Well, I think is kind of sad that the rise of Bitcoin can be correlated to geopolitical uncertainty, but is the way it is. Look at also gold. Gold, I think, on a Friday when there was the peak of uncertainty of potential attacks and so on, rose to above $2,000 per ounce, right? So all the assets that are considered as the hedge assets for potential global resets are going always to thrive under in these specific moments in time. Of course, that is not only the value of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the money that can become money for every day. Is money that you can control, makes you free, and so on. But also, someone could imagine that the fear of potential escalation of conflicts could push more and more people towards Bitcoin at a faster pace.
Do you see a world where it's basically Bitcoin in your wallet as your savings account and Tether in your wallet as your money for spending? I know we've described Tether obviously as a savings technology as well, certainly for people outside the United States. But could you see a world where you've effectively opted out of physical cash or your bank account and you're basically holding Bitcoin for one purpose and then you're spending your Tether to get by every single day?
I think so. I think that there are different ways to look at it. That definitely the saving part, I would agree that especially with the consolidation of Bitcoin, it will take years, right? So now, right now, let's think. So right now, I think the the market cap of gold is quite higher than, and market cap of gold is around 12 trillion, something like that. And Bitcoin is 700, 600, 700. So it's still quite far, right? So it needs to grow a lot in order to become more stable. Gold now is stable because the liquidity is so high and is so diverse that it has a steady price. The price is stable. Now, Bitcoin will need to get to that stability in order to be a proper saving account not for the believers, but for everyone. Then on the checking account, I think USDT is great for the future. I would argue that eventually people might also want to use something like Tether Gold to have, again, something that is still good for payments, could use like, some sort of layer 2 chain. And in the end, gold has been used throughout humanity as a payment system. So the concern is that the US dollar, given how much has been printed in this moment, might lose a little, not compared to the others, but in the end, at least compared to Bitcoin, might lose purchasing power, right? So someone could argue that it's not Bitcoin going up, but it's the dollar going up, and also the rest of the other, the dollar going down, and alongside with all the other currencies.
Yeah, you talked about Tether Gold, which I think is a very interesting point there. We're also seeing that one of the main narratives, I think, in the space in general right now, and I think one that may drive part of this next cycle is RWA, right? Real world assets on chain. I was actually very surprised when I looked into the amount of tokenized T-bills and treasuries already on chain and who was doing it. Right, Franklin Templeton is one of the largest asset managers in the world. I think they have 300 million in AUM in tokenized T-bills, and that's already up to $1 billion. So as total AUM, so they're 300 million of it, but there's a total of $1 billion with others like Maple Finance, etc. I mean, do you think that, I guess, as a next level of that question, Bitcoin and Tether in your wallet, do you think we can get to a world where so many real world assets are tokenized that you can basically just exist in this economy entirely and opt out?
Well, that would be definitely ideal, but it doesn't necessarily play well with securities laws. One of the classic points or questions that I get is when Tether will share some interest. I know that some of our competitors are doing that, but sharing interest, or it would mean that people would hold your token with the expectation of making money, right, and getting a yield out of it. And that makes it a security, that makes it a financial product. And so, yes, we want to see a world where tokenization makes access to assets more easy. But also, this access to assets will not be free without KYC, will not be open to everyone, right? So it's a different transport layer. Again, these are going to be assets that are regulated. I mean, pretty sure that the current 100%. Tokenized T-bills, you cannot, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm almost sure that you can apply them on US, right? Yeah. So because they are securities. So again, as securities, then sure, you can buy them, you can hold them in your wallet on chain, but if the issuer fails, right? If the issuer, you mentioned that, okay, maybe the US T-bills are split. We think that they're still split, but imagine that you have a T-bill or like a bond from a small company. Sure, you can hold it on your wallet, but if the company goes, you have lost your money anyway. That's the point of, there is a huge distinction between having centralized assets that like stablecoins or like, T-bills or whatever, using a decentralized platform layer like a blockchain, or having real decentralized tokens or coins like Bitcoin, right? So blockchains are great for many use cases. They're cool for also real world assets, but not necessarily are going to add more protection to the holders of the real world assets because they are inherently centralized.
And where do you think central bank digital currencies fall into this mix?
So I think the CBDCs are interesting, but I'm not really bullish on those. First of all, I don't think they are going to be a threat to Tether. I just think that they are hard for government to make them happening, right? The part, of course, China is paving the way, but Europe, I know that they are really keen in having having a digital euro, but that is extremely difficult from them for multiple reasons. First of all, they could completely kill European banking system because they would take away 30% of all transactions from the banks, and all the people working in the banks will be without a job. That is the first thing. Second, then you would be a situation where, as a customer, right now you can choose your bank, or you can choose your credit card. So any transaction, you buy a coffee, right, at the coffee shop, and your transaction, your purchase stays with you and your bank or your credit card. Imagine a world where suddenly all the transactions are settled with a central bank. And now this would mean that the governments could know at any point in time, based on your purchases during the day, people can know where you are. So imagine suddenly governments could know the exact location, the exact habits of each one of their citizens. I think it's extremely scary, right? So it's not, you don't have anymore the filter of a bank. You can think whatever you want about a bank, but at least it's acting as a filter between you and the government that might not be necessarily super nice.
Yeah, the privacy aspect of it is terrifying. I was just curious if it would impact directly private stablecoins if they tried to ban them or anything like that. To be honest, the United States, I think, has made it exceptionally clear that they have no intention of moving towards a central bank digital currency anytime soon. I love that, obviously people in the crypto community are very passionate about this and fearful of it, but you alluded to how difficult that would be. And in my mind, once you turn that switch on, you can't turn it off. So They would have to be very sure that it worked perfectly. And I mean, I think just the scale of doing that is so astronomically hard to imagine that it's just not coming anytime in the near future in the United States.
Yeah, it's for a central bank. It's like playing 5D chess game with the entire economy, right? So sure, you can be brilliant and the biggest genius in the earth. But if you make a mistake, there is no, and it's really easy to make mistakes because it's hard to predict, right? It's like, a butterfly bats its wings somewhere in the world and a catastrophe happens somewhere else, right? So you don't know, it's going to be hard to fly to the pole if something bad happens.
Imagine if we get a central bank digital currency and then the wallets are used to fund terrorism, then what's the government going to do?
Yes, exactly.
Who are they going to go after, right? Because it's the exact. When you think about it in that level, the fact that they come after Tether as a company or any of the actual assets or the technology that are agnostic is so seemingly absurd.
Yeah, unfortunately, yes.
So you talked about the first mover advantage of Tron, and that's the reason largely that they're so popular and so many Tether transactions happen on that chain. Do you think that's part of the success of Tether itself? Because you guys were sort of the first large stable coin that you had the first mover advantage, because when you look at market cap, you guys are obviously absolutely crushing everybody else, A, and B, you talked about also the fact that even in the current market, often it's trading at a premium, right? Which shows you that people value it over other options.
We at Tether use the concept of real world ecosystem, right? And everyone today talks about real world assets, but we think, and I'm going to say the third thing that would not make me gain popularity today, but so the real world ecosystem beats Web3 100-1, right? So Web3 is an ecosystem that, of course, is cute, could open doors to progress in gaming and different things. But again, people's lives are made by other things. They need other tools. They need other types of infrastructure that are more essential to their families, right? And that's so you never see in Tether doing Web3 roadshows on this and that, not because we are not looking at them, but our focus is in building real world ecosystems. That's what we are doing, having co-founded Kit as a peer-to-peer channel. We think that it can easily grow to 1 billion users. We are doing many other projects similar to Heat, to keep building our ecosystem that is made by simple applications. Of course, it needs a lot of work, but it will be made by simple applications that can fulfill needs of in the day-to-day people lives.
I want to give you a fourth chance to say something unpopular, so I'm going to set you up. We've heard about the flippening many times of Ethereum flipping Bitcoin in market cap. Do you think that Tether could ever flip Bitcoin in market cap?
No, but maybe Ethereum, yes.
Okay, well then I made you see now. I could have given you 4 and 5 in the same sentence. Let's talk about that. How do you think then that Ethereum could? I think it could, by the way, too. But the caveat being that I don't think it matters at all which one has a larger market cap, and it's a stupid narrative.
Yeah, it's all folklore, right? So we are humbled with the market cap we have. I mean, we are not measuring our success with the market cap. We, of course, is good. It's profitable, but in the end, we, as I stated, I think at the beginning, the vast majority of what Tether makes remains in the company, gets reinvested in infrastructure, in ecosystem. We believe that that is the only thing that matters, right? So, it's we are also we think that there are many other projects that deserve to grow in the future. So we don't like usually to participate to religion wars when it comes to this technology.
I don't like to get into the religion wars either. It does feel like, though, right at this moment, I write a newsletter every day, and literally today's newsletter was about the most unpopular asset, the most hated asset right now being Ethereum. It just seems like we're in that part of the cycle now where irrationally everybody's chosen that's the thing they hate because it's just not doing as well as Bitcoin in price. And I just look back 4 years in the cycle every time, and it just seems like we're exactly where we're supposed to be.
Are people in for the tech though, and not for the price?
No, yeah. Well, they're always in it for the tech, except for when the price is down. Right. That's why everybody always they really loved their NFTs, which were a deep part of their soul when the price was up. But now that they're worth a penny, you don't see as many people, I guess, identify with them. Before I let you go, any other final thoughts? Anything else we might have missed here?
Well, just there is going to be Adopting Bitcoin in El Salvador. I'm going to be there next week. So if you're around, come and see me. I'm happy always to talk nerd to a nerd.
Yeah, well, these days it's good because when you go to the conferences, it is only us nerds, right? It's not like tens of thousands of retail people with Bored Ape t-shirts on anymore. It's just developers.
Yes, I don't mind. I like my crowd.
Yeah, it's nice and quiet. The bear market, they always say, is a good time for building. But I'm not going to lie and say I'm not really looking forward to the next raging bull market because it's a lot of fun as well.
Yes, it's fun as well. Yes, I cannot deny that.
All right, Paolo, man. Thank you so much as always. And one day we're going to start a show without having to talk about the newest flavor of FUD against Tether. I didn't even intend to do it again, to be honest. It's not like that's why this was scheduled, but I feel like it's like now just our recipe to knock it out at the beginning and get it out of the way so we can have a real conversation.
Well, thank you very much, Scott, for giving me always a way to talk through all the FUD and explain what's going on.
Thank you for doing it. Appreciate it. Thanks, man.